what is the one prop that we like the most out of this group that was submitted by you guys and out of the 10 that we that made the first cut. That bet, I'm going to pick up my cellular device here, and we're going to place a $1,000 bet on this prop bet that we ultimately select. If you win this prop bet, if the winner hits the bet, you will get $1,000 cash, plus you will get 365 days of access all the way through next year's Super Bowl. You'll get access over at Sharp Football Analysis, all of Rich's stuff, everything unlocked, all of my stuff, all the prop bets, all the regular bets, all the college football bets, everything will be completely unlocked to you. So it's a ton of value. We got like over $2,500 worth of cash and prizes on the line here. And we're going to be not giving it all away. You have to win your bet, but we're going to be selecting one person here very soon.
All right, let's get right to it here. Let's get started with Riley, who took both teams to complete their first pass attempt, -110 at DraftKings.
Sharps coming to you live from Caesars Superdome. My favorite Super Bowl 59 prop is both teams to complete their first pass attempt. You can find that currently for -110 at DraftKings Sportsbook, and I just think that's a really bad price. You look at the 4 Super Bowls previously in the Mahomes and Reed era, you would have went 3-1 on this prop. The quarterbacks in those games were 7-1 on their first pass attempt. The one time that prop didn't hit, it should have, because it was designed to be a wide open screen pass to Damian Williams, and it was batted down at the line of scrimmage by Nick Bosa on a strange play where he just blew it up. I think that stands to reason and makes a lot of sense, right? It's the Super Bowl. You've been scripting this play for 2 weeks. You've walked it through countless times, and you've got probably a quarterback with some nerves and jitters. Want to get him in the game, stay ahead of the sticks, try to score on that first drive. And when we have perfect conditions behind us, and as Warren has taught us, Vic Fangio, a defense that limits explosive plays, wants to keep the ball in front of you, I think this is tremendous value at -110, and I wish you the best if you tail.
The only way that I think that this bet loses, to be honest, is if it's a third down pass attempt from Jalen Hurts and he's under pressure. And in that situation, that's a complete wild card, as we've discussed. But otherwise, it sort of stands to reason that on the first or second down, early downs here, that these teams are going to have some sort of pass attempt that's well scripted out, some sort of drop back that they've planned out for a little while, and they're going to give a quarterback low ADOT, low target depth, and just let him get a pass out there to feel good. And also, you don't want to throw an incompletion. It sets your team back, and you don't want to punt the ball on your first possession. You don't want to go 3 and out. So neither of these teams, in my opinion, is going to go run, and then third and long pass. If they're in a situation on that second down, if the first down run is not successful, I believe that they're going to throw a short pass to gain some yards to try to set up a third and manageable passing situation. So there might be your completion on second down, but with the Kansas City Chiefs, maybe it's a first down, easy pass. These teams are not going to be throwing the ball deep down the field or into coverage on first down. So the only way this one loses, in my opinion, is a Jalen Hurts third down under pressure pass attempt. Hopefully that's not the case, though, for Riley.
All right, let's move on here with Ryan, who has something about Xavier Worthy.
This is Ryan Flaherty, and when I think of my best Super Bowl bet, I think of Andy Reid with an extra week to game plan to scheme, and him needing to do that against that tough Eagles front seven. So who's he scheming for? That's right, Xavier Worthy, and that's been the case of late. He's been a bit of a golden goose, but the receiving markets have caught up to that. So instead, I'm going with Xavier Worthy over 5.5 rushing yards. Now, I got that at 3.5 at plus odds on Monday, so hopefully there's still something decent when you see this. If anything, I'd go with the over yardage over the juice, because Xavier Worthy has gone double digits in 4 of his last 5 games rushing. And you might get a situation like the championship game where there was initially a reception that got changed to a rush because it was behind the line of scrimmage. And I mentioned Reid scheming. Last Super Bowl, Rashee Rice had 2 rushing attempts despite only having 1 during the regular season. So I fully expect Worthy to get touches, some of those to be rushes, and you only need 1 to be moderately successful, and you got your over. And now my team that I root for might be losers, but my best bets rarely are.
I love that. We had confidence, we had jokes. You guys are crushing these. I'm in full agreement with this one. You used it as a prop. That was a great explanation. Do just give some more odds next time, just so we can all be aware of what juice you did end up finding. So you said plus money, but I mean, I love this wager because Worthy speed makes him such a great weapon. You got those jet sweeps, reverses, red zone gadget plays. That is a staple of the Andy Reid's offense. and the Chiefs have increased his rushing role in the postseason. And if you consider Eagles' defensive vulnerabilities, well, Philadelphia's defense has prioritized stopping some of that interior pass rushes. They're first in sacks. That's potentially leaving some of the edges open to the perimeter runs. So I think that's like a perfect fit for Worthy's agility, acceleration. That makes him such an ideal candidate for a rushing prop because he can exploit some of those outside lanes, especially the Eagles overcommit to containing Patrick Mahomes, who we're saying could potentially be the Chiefs' leading rusher. So even with minimal usage between 2 and 3 carries, that could easily surpass this fold. Now, the only thing you have to look at the other side, right? When you're making wagers, how can it work, but also how can it not? What crushes this is the Eagles' run defense. So good, so solid, top 10. But Worthy's role is less about volume, and it's more about explosive plays. So I love that because a single carry could cash that bet.
Let's move on and let's do Taylor, who has an interesting, I would say this is a very interesting approach to talking about longest play, longest touchdown, things like that.
My name is Taylor May, and my favorite Super Bowl prop is for the Philadelphia Eagles to score the longest touchdown at -110. I think it wins because Philly's offense is more equipped to have explosive plays, while their defensive scheme is to prevent them. I looked through the game log since October, and the Eagles have scored a longer touchdown than their opponent in 12 of the past 16 games. Of the 4 losses, 2 were from defensive and special teams scores, 1 was Week 18 with the backups in, and 1 was versus the Steelers 9 yards to 5. Meanwhile, the Chiefs in the same time frame only have 2 touchdowns of more than 20 yards, a 21-yard rush by Xavier Worthy and a 35-yard pass to Noah Gray. 1 breakaway run by Saquon Barkley or deep shot to A.J. Brown is all it takes to win. I also like that this can win regardless of which team you like in the game. The book shows us as a coin flip, so I think there's massive value in taking the Eagles. Furthermore, this prop can be decided on any play from the first to the last, so it'll be fun rooting for it throughout the whole game. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think Taylor hit this one perfectly. I think his point about the Eagles' offense is built to score on big plays, and like that's just not the case, as Rich brought up in the first hour with the Chiefs. And that's true even if you take out Saquon Barkley's, historic big play run. We still have the Eagles' offense as a whole, without Barkley, still scored more from outside the red zone than the Chiefs have. The Chiefs have scored from outside the red zone only 6 times all year. The Eagles have 22 touchdowns from outside the red zone this season. That was the best in the league. Saquon Barkley has 3 touchdowns from outside the red zone himself this postseason alone. So he's half of Kansas City's entire total by himself in the postseason, 10 total by himself. What I will say is if this was just offense against offense, I would be, like 100%, like put the max on it. I'm in on this bet. I will say, from a receiving game kind of perspective, or a return game perspective, could we get, another fumble recovery like we had, a couple of years ago? Like there could be a defensive touchdown here. So there are some things that could happen that could, send this to the Chiefs in a special teams play, a defense play. But if it's just offense on offense, this really feels like one that, is a very good bet here for the Eagles to have the longest touchdown. Let's keep it going. We've got Jason who has a take here on DeVonta Smith.
Happy Super Bowl week. My name is Jason. My favorite Super Bowl prop bet is DeVonta Smith over 70 receiving yards plus 215. I think this wins. Well, because 215, 215, the Philadelphia area code, simple, right? But wait, there's more. This is the 4th time DeVonta Smith is going to be facing Steve Spagnuolo's defense. Previous 3 matchups, 7 catches, 122 yards, 7 catches, 100 yards, and 6 catches, 99 yards. Now, there's more than that. It's not just the down-the-field passes that DeVonta Smith's going to grab some receiving yards. We saw in the NFC Championship game, line him up in the slot, get him in motion, use the pop pass. They count his receiving yards, so you might as well go with it. The pride of Amite City, Louisiana comes home to New Orleans to win the Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles. You could parlay it, take the catches, take the receptions, take the receiving yards, take the Eagles money line. It's fine. We only know that. Plus 215, DeVonta Smith, 70 yards. Go Birds.
Yeah, I laid out the pro argument for DeVonta Smith in this game earlier in the show. I won't repeat all the stats, but I love laddering them all the way up to 80 yards too. I don't know if this one's going to win as like the individual outright bet, but I do think DeVonta Smith's a sharp way to play this game.
All right, keep it going here with Jordan. Jahan, talking about Jahan Dotson, another Eagles receiver.
My favorite Super Bowl bet is Jahan Dotson under 1.5 receiving yards. And let me tell you why I think this wins. Listen, Everybody and their mothers wants to bet the big, sexy over props with players like Saquon, Mahomes, Brown, and Kelsey. But not me. I don't care how I cash tickets. I can't even believe the books have a line out on this guy. He hasn't been involved in the playoffs at all. Last 2 games, 0 targets, 0 receptions. And the last 3 regular season games that had any meaning, he had 1 target for 0 yards. Yes, in week 18, he went off for 11 targets, 7 catches, and 94 yards. But guess what? Philly was resting their starters. This tells you everything you need to know about how the coaches view Dotson. He's not a part of the game plan. So if you like free money, you can get Jahan Dotson under 1.5 receiving yards on Bet365 at -110. Good luck.
See, Jordan's an animal, just betting the lowest lined yardage prop on the board under. It's great. How do you hate that? The only thing that I'll push back on this one, and I don't necessarily 100% dislike this one, is what Sean is saying right there in the chat. Unlike the Kansas City Chiefs, where they could run a little bit more 12 personnel, or they have all these wide receivers that we're not sure which one's going to get play, Dotson is out there. The Eagles are running a lot of 11. They're running 81% 11 personnel, and Dotson is that guy out there on the field. Rich, you probably have the exact stats at the tip of your tongue. It's like what his snap rate is or what his snap total has been over the last several weeks, but he is out there on the field all the time running around. And so if Jalen Hurts is in one of these panic situations, he could just not even intend to, but just chuck it to him just to avoid taking a sack at some point in time. So that's one of the only things is just he's out on the field so much.
All right, let's keep it going here with Austin, another Xavier Worthy prop for us.
My favorite Super Bowl prop is Xavier Worthy over 5.5 receptions. The reason for that is because he's fully taken over the Rashid Rice role, and that role is peppered with targets. He's been covering his prop line since week 13. And also, if you go and you look to see how people compared to him have been against Philadelphia, a good amount of people, also small wide receivers, have been able to cover against Philly. And if you go over here and you look at some of the actual facts and data, it shows that Xavier Worthy has gone in motion for 33% of his snaps in the postseason, up from 18 motion rate in the regular season. He also is doing this at a higher percentage, 42.9 in the postseason, than Travis Kelce, who has led the Chiefs wide receivers in the same stat since 2019 to 2023, where he's actually dropped to 16.8%.
Well, I ran down a lot of the stuff earlier. I do think that the receptions are largely fine. He's had 5 or more catches in 7 straight games, but I did run through like a wealth of negative stats for like Xavier Worthy in this individual matchup, especially like where he's drawn his targets. So that becomes a little bit sketchy. We know that like we're not just going to get cover 4 and cover 6 on every single snap either. So it's not like he's going to not catch 0 passes, but I do think there's a little bit more opportunity for the ancillary guys to play it. I will say if I was playing Worthy's unders, though, I would lean to the receiving yardage probably more than anything. But I do like Hollywood Brown's yardage a little bit more, maybe some Travis Kelce stuff.
I think we are going to get to a Kansas City running back here in just a second. Before we do that, though, I do want to bring in Brian talking about 4th down conversions.
Brian from New Jersey. Absolutely love your guys' analysis. My favorite prop bet, Super Bowl 59, Eagles over 1.5 4th down conversions, plus 130 at DraftKings as of Friday the 31st. Love it for 4 reasons. Eagles are in the forefront of the NFL analytically. They know the numbers. They're going to be aggressive. They follow the numbers. Goes back to the Doug Peterson era. Number 2, they know you're not going to beat the Chiefs kicking field goals. They're going to be aggressive. Number 3, Jake Elliott's actually even been struggling too, so another reason they're not kicking field goals. Number 4, the tush push, brotherly shove. It's a big advantage for them. If it's short, they're going to be aggressive, not only midfield, not only in Chiefs territory, but even backed up in their own field. I see them going for it. This number hit in both the recent Eagles Super Bowls. They both went over Super Bowl 52 and 57. Love it. Again, Eagles over 1.5 4th down conversions, plus 130. Thanks, guys.
I don't hate this one, Brian. I'm right on board with you here with the thought process. And I sort of laid out why I like this one with the prior discussion in the first hour of this show, which is I see a lot of 3rd down attempts in the future of the Philadelphia Eagles because of their commitment to the run game and the fact that they're probably going to be in some third and manageable situations. But inevitably, if you look down the list at all the other teams that have gone up against the Kansas City Chiefs, you're talking about 14 to 15 third down attempts. What ends up happening there is you're going to have 7 or 6 or 8 different conversions, but that's going to leave you with a lot of fourth downs that you can potentially go for. And like you said, they're one of the forefront teams at the analytics as well as the edge that they have over everybody else, which is that tush push. And so for those couple of reasons, I do think that we probably will get over 1.5. So I'm in agreement with this one here.
Our next one up here with Blaine with a Goedert prop.
My favorite Super Bowl prop is Dallas Goedert over 51.5 yards. I think it wins because this comes down to Kansas City's defense on Jalen Hurts. Hurts has some of the biggest splits in the league when it comes to facing pressure. He looks elite when given time, but he struggles significantly when he's pressured. I think Spags sets the tone early, dials up consistent pressure, and limits the time Philly's wide receivers are going to have to develop routes down the field. This is going to force Hurts into quicker, shorter throws, and that's where Goedert comes in. He's going to find himself matched up against KC's linebackers where he has a clear size advantage. On top of that, Spags has a history of shutting down all-star running backs in big games. This means Saquon Barkley is going to be stopped from explosive plays. That's going to put the focus on Philly's run game, leaving plenty of opportunities for our tight end friend. And as a bonus, Goedert has exceeded his longest reception prop in all 3 of his playoff games. His longest reception prop for Sunday is 18.5 yards. This means he could do it with just 3 or 4 catches. Give me Goedert over 51.5 yards as my best bet at minus 115.
Yeah, and this one has been bet up. We kind of talked about ones that the public are on, and this is a yardage total that's definitely been bet up so far since we opened, the Monday after the championship games. But as Blaine laid out, I think it's for good reason. Like, there's a lot of reasons why you would like this one, and I can add some more to that. He's been a much bigger focal point of the offense in the playoffs now that he's back healthy. We had some questions about, well, we haven't seen a lot of AJ Brown and DeVonta Smith and Dallas Goedert on the field together in the regular season. What does this look like? Well, it's looked like Dallas Goedert has been a focal point of the passing game ahead, really, of DeVonta Smith. He has a 29% target share, targeted on 24.3% of his routes. And then we also have the matchup situation here. We talked about in that first hour how good Kansas City's been against wide receivers. It has not been the case here for them against tight ends. They face the 7th most tight end targets in the regular season. They allowed the most yards per target to the position. Again, I don't really like how everybody seems to be on this. I might pay a little bit extra vig and just take over 4.5 catches. That has not moved up yet, at least when we're recording this on Tuesday night. But the logic here on Goedert and him having a big game and his overs, even his anytime touchdown, all of it is there for Goedert in this game. It really is a good spot for him. 2 more. Let's start here with Matthew, who has something here about Samaje Perine.
Sharps, my favorite prop for the Super Bowl is Samaje Perine over 6.5 receiving yards. I think it wins not only because of the player trends support it, but Reed has plays designed for Perine and is not afraid to call his name in high leverage situations like he did last week to seal the game against Buffalo. Close game equals lots of high leverage opportunities. So the trends on the year, Perine averages 19 yards a game. That's 3 times his line. He averages 11.7 yards per catch, 2 times his line. Perine has gone over 6.5 yards in 16 out of 19 weeks this year. In 15 of those weeks, he's been in double digits for receiving yards. In the last 6 weeks of the regular season, he averaged 23 yards per game. Perine's current odds of 1+ catch at minus 270. The books are telling us he's going to get a catch and he's going to go over.
I love this one. And if you read my Super Bowl analysis article, you know why. I think this is a smash bet. So much so that I took the over on 10.5 receiving yards at plus money because Perine in Casey's offense. The dude is averaging 12 yards per reception in this season. It is solid production for a guy that has a very specialized role in Casey's offense, primarily operating as Casey's go-to third down back. And his job is pretty simple. He keeps Mahomes upright, and he's one of those guys, that type of option when the pressure comes. Well, while his playoff usage has been light, and I think this is why his number is so low, he has only 1 grab for 17 yards in the AFC Championship. His value in blitz situations cannot be ignored, and Eagles struggles against pass catching running backs. I mean, Philadelphia's defense gave up work to running backs through the air. They're allowing 7 yards per reception, 4 yards per catch to running backs this regular season. That weakness can become even more glaring in the playoffs with opponents. I mean, they're giving up running backs 6 times per games against them. So the Eagles, leading the league in sacks, expect KC to dial up plenty of quick passes. That's what we keep honing in on, right? That Mahomes is going to have a lot of those quick passes to neutralize the heat. That's perfect for Perine's role. It's a one and done cash out scenario in my head. And I immediately saw this, jumped out. You laid out all the stats. He's hit 7+ yards in 12 of 17 games this season. I love this because one reception is likely catching this. The only risk factor, it's minimal. I think this is a minimal risk factor. Philadelphia is 7th best against running back receiving yards, but that is kind of really padded by more volume based, and Perine is more of a check down machine. So he is a situational weapon. One grab, take. And I love this. So I love the base. You found a much better number at 6.5 receiving yards. I'm going for plus money, going for 10+. So I love them. This is one of my favorite wagers of the Super Bowl.
I got one more here, and this is from Alden. Finally, getting Patrick Mahomes, the man. We have to get Patrick Mahomes in here, and Alden does it for us.
My favorite Super Bowl prop is Mahomes' longest completion under 35.5 yards. You can find this at BetMGM. So first of all, it's easy to see where this number comes from. His average longest completion over his last 10 games is 35.8 yards. But there's 2 problems with this line. First of all, the Chiefs' deep target rate of 8.4% and their average depth of target of just 6.5 yards were both 30th in the league, just better than Tua and Goff. And that's why Mahomes has gone under this line in 10 of his last 13 games. I think against the Fangio 2 high shell, they're going to keep passes close to the line of scrimmage as they've done all year. Second, the Eagles' defense has been excellent at shutting down the deep ball, allowing the lowest explosive pass rate in the league and 3rd lowest EPA on throws over 10 yards. Slay and Mitchell have both been supreme, with Mitchell allowing just 5 catches on 15 targets for 24 yards in the playoffs, and Slay with 5 PBUs and a pick over that time. So you can lock in Mahomes under 35.5 yards now.
This goes back to what Rich and I were talking about when we were breaking down the Kansas City Chiefs going up against Vic Fangio's defense. Ample amounts of quarters coverage or cover 6, and Patrick Mahomes did not throw the ball down the field very successfully against the type of coverage. He hasn't thrown the ball down the field against any type of coverage. We actually have a graphic for this. We didn't get a chance to pop it up during the segment when we were talking about the Kansas City Chiefs offense, and we won't worry about it right now. But Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs have been throwing the ball shorter. They've been very comfortable throwing the ball short over the course of this season. It's very atypical than the team that we've seen in the past with the lower ADOT this year, and they're just satisfied with throwing it short and matriculating the ball down the field. And against a defense like this, it just is difficult. The one thing that is a little bit concerning, but it's maybe not enough to push me off of this one, is that when you look at the last several games, I think last week being the exception potentially, they've gone over this number as they've integrated all the different receiving weapons back into this offense. And so while they still might not be throwing the ball deeper down the field, there is the potential with the integration of all these guys to create some mismatches or some advantages where you hit that one play that gets you over this. The second reason, I guess I said there's only one. The second reason is when you got a longest completion prop, I would rather be taking that on a quarterback that I think is going to be throwing fewer pass attempts, because then you have to, those pass attempts have to mean more. Here, it's going to be a lot of volume, in my opinion, from Patrick Mahomes throwing the football. And for that reason, a higher percentage chance that one of them could go over this number. That said, I do like the under here. I would not be betting the over.
And I think everything we've talked about for this Chiefs passing game against Vic Fangio, against this Eagles defense, like it points us to that. Not even that they're just not pushing the ball down the field, as Alden brought up in there, but also I think at Rich's point about yards after the catch, like you would be worried, are we going to see Xavier Worthy create after the catch? Are we going to see, Travis Kelce create after the catch or something like that? And that's just not something we see from the Eagles. And so it's kind of like, well, they're not throwing it that far down the field, and it's going to be hard for them to create after the catch. And you put all that together. Yeah. And it it makes a lot of sense. But then we have Jeff here in the chat as well. He said same thing I said above. Yeah, the Patrick Mahomes. It's Patrick Mahomes that you're betting against, and that's always.
I said in our thread
always
last night. I mean, there's a lot of Patrick Mahomes unders that make sense, but you got to bet Patrick Mahomes unders. He hasn't even thrown for 200 yards in either of these games against the Eagles the past 2 years. And that was before we brought up the Fangio stuff too.
And a lot of these are just going to be statistically sound. Like 36 plus yard completion is just unlikely considering game script. So much defensive pressure, conservative play calling, possibly relying on a run game. So yeah, statistically, yes. Oh.
It's tough. It's tough. I do want to say we're going to narrow this down. We're going to pick a winner. I do want to say, I just want to remind you, I think we all had we liked something about all of these. These were excellent. Warren's going to mention more, I think, here in a second. We just had so many great entries. If you like these, if you like any of them, we are all going to give out some of our favorite props in a second. You can head over to Sleeper. They're giving away a $10 no sweat lineup to all users for the last game of the NFL season. All you got to do is pick more or less on 2-player stat projections, and you can win cash. If you miss, you'll get your money back. And when you use the promo code SHARP, you get an additional $25 no sweat lineup the next day to try NBA picks. Make sure you head over there if you're interested in any of these. We have a lot of people in chat talking about it. Sleeper is a place to go to have a look at these. But now here we are. We have to.
Yeah, those are great.
Can I lay? They're all really good.
It's like when you have your kids and they do something you're kind of proud of. It's like, our consumers, they all were thought out. Even if we didn't agree with them, if I didn't the reasoning and the rationale was all on point. Yeah, so I did love a lot of it.
Can I lay down like an idea? And we don't have to agree with this, but this is kind of my thought process as we try to whittle down here. I am interested in looking at something that's like a Super Bowl bet, right? Like that's a bet that we're only going to be able to make it the Super Bowl. You're not going to be able to make it in some random game in October. And I think looking at that,
coin toss.
I don't know. It speaks to me. It's
Gatorade
coin toss. Yeah, we're gonna
Gatorade in the coin toss.
Out of left field, we've got the purple Gatorade.
More yellow mustard.
I'm into the coin toss. Warren might have lots of thoughts about the coin toss later on in the week. Stay tuned to this channel and subscribe to the YouTube. But yeah, no, like when I'm looking at this list and we're trying to pare it down, I do like that idea of something that's maybe like that, especially that Eagles over 1.5 fourth down conversions, like that kind of thing is really interesting to me. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think as I was taking some notes here, it seems like a couple of the ones that really stood out to us, Eagles over 1.5 fourth down conversions, Eagles longest touchdown. Those are two that you can't really bet at any other point other than the Super Bowl. And then another one that I really liked was the one that we just heard at the end from Alden, which was the Patrick Mahomes longest completion under, because that really falls into a couple of things that Rich and I were discussing as it relates to the coverage here. The only concern that I have for that one is, like I said, I brought up two concerns. And so I sort of am leaning towards one of the other two, but I think those would be, if I had to pick like three for us to pick from, those would be the three: Eagles over 1.5 fourth down conversions, Mahomes under longest completion, or Eagles longest touchdown.
But I think it's up to you, Warren. You're the decider here. You're the decider on which one of these picks. I agree with you. I will say I will also throw in some love there to the both teams to complete the first pass attempt. Again, it's just a fun one. The problem with that one, it ends a little early. Like we're going to be done with that. You're not going to be sweating that for a long time. So that knocks it down a rung. But I like that one as well. But ultimately, Warren, I mean, this is your decision. It's your show. You tell us.
Well, the one that I think is going to keep going the whole time, because the under longest completion could end, right? The over 4.5 fourth down conversions, which I like as well and bet, that one could end. The one that is never going to end until the final whistle is the Eagles to have the longest touchdown, because even if they've got an 80-yard touchdown or something, you never know what could happen with the Kansas City Chiefs, and kickoff return touchdowns or punt return touchdowns count for this as well. And so you're always going to have that question mark as to, is there going to be a longer touchdown than the one if the Philadelphia Eagles even get one up on the board? And then if the Chiefs have a nice 30-yard touchdown, then you're going to be pulling for Saquon Barkley or A.J. Brown or any of the explosives the rest of the game. So it's a unique prop bet that you can't bet during the season. it's something you'll be able to root for all game long. And I think we all believe from a matchup perspective and the way the game unfolds perspective that it probably is going to win. Like, we like this bet to win. And to Rich's point, this is a great line. And you can get this line at -110 at DraftKings or -118 at FanDuel. So if you guys agree, I think we go with Eagles to have the longest touchdown. And that was submitted by who was that one? That was Taylor. Taylor submitted that one. Do you guys like that one?
I think it's the most fun of the options. I think like Jalen Hurts scoring a touchdown, Worthy's rushing? Like, these are all things that a lot of people are betting, and a lot of people have fun. I think this is the most fun bet. Is it necessarily the most the sharpest bet? I don't know, but it is a great line, and it's unique. I think it's super fun.
And you're going to be, and like Warren said, you're going to be sweating it until the clock hits 0 because you give the ball back to Mahomes with a minute left.
Yeah, think if like Saquon has like a 45-yard touchdown run on the first drive, you still have to sweat the rest of the game out.
Right.
A Mahomes Hail Mary touchdown to win the game to Juju Smith-Schuster. That's going
Trent
to be
McDuffie interception return, like Remigio kickoff return, punt return.
Okay, so
here's really,
So here's what we're doing. I am getting down, and I do have the ability. The different books. You can't. If I try to bet this at DK, I can't get enough down on it. But I can bet this at FanDuel, and I can get enough down. I've got a $1,300.29 limit on this one at FanDuel. So I'm going ahead and betting this one right now for Taylor. So Taylor, you are going to be the winner of our contest, but you don't get the money here unless the bet actually wins, and you don't get the 2025 365-day access to the website that starts the day after the Super Bowl unless this bet hits. So we're going to be rooting for you, Taylor, to get the $2,500 worth of cash and prizes. We're rooting for the rest of us. And hopefully you guys are going to tail us as well from a subs perspective, because I'm going to be shooting this prop out here momentarily, as well as 7 others to the rest of you subs. And we're all going to sweat it together.